I was waking up, I had just a moment of remembering us. I keep forgetting that this we're like that. No matter what the plan, you always disappear like that.
Alright, we're recording. Hello everybody, welcome to Did You Hear That with Sean Thompson and
Eric Claassen.
Yeah. So Eric came to me with this idea of starting a podcast where we bring an artist on and we just kind of go through their lyrics and dissect it in as a therapeutic a fashion as possible and let them kind of work out the ideas. Is that kind of what I'm understanding there, Eric?
Yeah, basically, like I've kind of always one of the things that I've really missed as an artist is there are certain things that I put into my lyrics and into my content that like mean so much to me, and sometimes they get like entirely missed by people that enjoy my music, not because they're just not like reading it right or different things like that, but because they don't have like the full perspective of the idea that I intended behind it. And I want people to like ask and like find out those certain things, and sometimes that kind of stuff doesn't come up organically. So I wanted to like basically just give a platform for other artists who I know are feeling those same things to just like ask them those direct questions, like, you know, what did you mean by this lyric, and like what was it like when you were going through writing that particular process, or like tell me about like where your headspace is now on these ideas, like how have you evolved as a musician by writing this, or like after it's written, that kind of thing.
Okay, cool. So I mean, I love the idea, honestly.
Yeah.
So today we are going, as kind of just a trial run for our first episode, we are going to go over Eric's songs Spirit of God from his EP Astral Science, produced by LAV Kai, right?
LAV Kai.
Trey Scott.
Yes, Trey Scott, LAV Kai, aka.
This is what the Democrats want for this country.
What is wrong with America? That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. This evening,
You know what I think about America?
Every empire falls, people move on and evolve. You can take credit or blame it on God. Either way, we know that you were involved. This is your song, tired of the games and the gimmicks. We both know without us there's a limit. You won't grow without bodies to witness. We move on to the sound of the ictus. It goes bum bum bums in Congress, bums in office. Bums won't help clean thumbs until they see the profit. At least be honest, sold your shit but no one bought it. No clean water, still got projects. This whole thing been placed on hostage, built by slaves and blood and violence. Feel that shame now, wait. You got sickness in your body, shake it out. I only show up to the places where I'm not allowed. You got way too much, just hold up in that secret bank account. Think I might just clean it out. Split the profit with my people, then I'm out. Can't handle the stress, got me bugging just to see the veins in my neck. Well, bet I'll be here till week after next. My chest for the dust, gotta breathe every breath. For me, this means to an end, no need to pretend. Real ones know what deep when it blends. Real blood flows in the streets we defend. We both know that we need this to end, yeah, we need this to end. Flying up the handle for the ego, clearing out the bending for the C-note. Looking at hope to the keyhole, meanwhile selling off soul by the kilo. Maybe it's all just a mean joke, maybe it's only at the end that we're equal. Why does it feel like we beg to do evil? Why does it feel like we're evil? Got sickness in your body, shake it out. I only show up to the places where I'm not allowed. You got way too much, just hold up in that secret bank account. Think I might just clean it out. Split the profit with my people, then I'm out. If you got sickness in your body, shake it out. I only show up to the places where I'm not allowed. You got way too much, just hold up in that secret bank account. Think I might just clean it out. Split the profit with my people, then I'm out.
Not one with the gavel, still I feel irate. Leaders by example, let them demonstrate. No, we gon' have to even up our dinner plates. Until our been straight, I feel I may go penetrate. Fuck them, they tendencies, I duck them, I tip the scale out. Balance, no cap in this our planet could have if we all plan it. Don't doubt like it's outlandish, the power is out. Standing together, we like Thanos could snap and they'd all vanish. I'm sick of this bullshit, gotta disfigure this subject. They giving you rules, you living with water above it. Word to mothers, they only bound to give you about as much as you down to put up with. Stand for everything or fall for nothing, no further discussions. To state a fact, my state, my faction. Make an impact and bringing pressure. Boy, we get shit cracking, it's adverse. Shit has to get bad first. No bragging, just add verbs and Tarantino flicks. We bout that action.
If you got sickness in your body, shake it out. I only show up to the places where I'm not allowed. You got way too much, just hold up in that secret bank account. Think I might just clean it out. Split the profit with my people, then I'm out. If you got sickness in your body, shake it out. I only show up to the places where I'm not allowed. You got way too much, just hold up in that secret bank account. Think I might just clean it out. Split the profit with my people, then I'm out.
Boy,
Oh, that's fun.
I love that guy.
Dude, he's fucking incredible.
Okay, so let's start with just the first line then. Every empire falls, people move on and evolve. you can take credit or blame it on God. Either way, we know you were involved. What does that mean?
Yes. So the idea behind that is I watched this one interview with well, I guess I should go back to the idea that coming from like a more fundamental Christian culture and community, there's a lot of fixation and focus on the idea of like an apocalypse or an end. As Western culture evolved, a lot of that got tied into the idea of the United States and the importance of maintaining the United States as a part of maintaining a non-apocalyptic kind of environment. And so like the lyric, every empire falls, people move on and evolve, is the idea that like, we're not Americans, we're humans. And like if America fully dissolved, yeah, that would be like catastrophic and awful and like cause all kinds of terrible suffering. And I don't want to see something like that happen. But ultimately, like humanity would move on. And that's like what I was kind of focusing on in that lyric. But this thing that I saw with Russell Brand, he was talking about, it kind of like opened up my eyes to the idea that like the apocalypse isn't this thing that I think it is, you know, or that I had been kind of like pigeonholed into believing that it was. But he said that like, you know, he's like, we project about this awful future in which there would be like famine and hardship and disease and all these different things. And he's like, but that's only because you live in a life that's like absent of those things. There are human beings that live around you currently that are experiencing that apocalypse now. Talking about like the homeless and like people in like third world environments where they don't have access to clean water. And
I mean, even people like, here with mental illness or
exactly. And he was talking about the idea that like, yeah. And so he talked about the idea that the apocalypse is here now for those people. And so like, instead of being terrified of that potential future, like live here where you are, but also like, you know, reach out to those people that are stuck in that hell.
Okay.
So the idea, every empire falls, people move on and evolve. You can take credit or blame it on God. Either way, we know that you were involved. So that's the idea of like kind of like in fundamental circles where you have that charismatic leader who stands in the front and will take credit when things go well or blame it on God when things go awful. Either way, we know you were involved.
Yeah, you were behind at least the actions driven by that force either way. Okay.
Cool. That's what it means.
So knowing that concept then, what is your favorite lyric in the song?
My favorite lyric is we move on to the sound of the ictus.
Yeah.
Because so ictus, I don't remember how I found this word. I think I was just like on like a web page for like cool words because I was like having like writer's block or something.
Yeah.
And I came across it and it means like rhythmic stress. And so it's like the stress of the pattern, the way that something flows. And so the very next line is, it goes, bum, bum, bums in Congress, bums in office, bums won't help clean slums until they see the profit. And that's the ictus. And like the whole, and then, so like, we move on, like the idea of moving on, basically the whole verse is about the idea of like, we as a society are like the power source for politicians.
Yeah.
Like without the people behind anything that a politician does, all their power disappears. So basically the idea is like, if we, the people, decide to move on from particular leaders, they don't have a choice. Like,
so we both know without us, there's a limit.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Like that's the game that like politicians and leaders play, is the idea of making you constantly believe you need them.
Interesting. And I mean, we don't. Oh.
I mean, there are certain things that require leadership when it comes to like national perspectives, but like, you know, there's certain things that leaders try to mitigate in people's lives. Like the war on drugs is a perfect example. You know, like where that's just you flexing a muscle you don't need to. And that's in conflict between the people in power and the people.
Well, I mean, even that too, the drug war itself was founded on racist principles back in the 30s by Harry Anslinger.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, yeah, like you look at the very root of it, like the whole shit is just evil and power flexing. Like ego, it's just pride and bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, the Department of Justice even was developed in 1870, about 5 years after the emancipation.
Yeah.
Weird, right?
Yeah. I listened to this podcast where they talked about like the whole invention of canine units had everything to do with slave tracking, and how like that's just the only reason it's a remnant is to scare black people. Like, it's just crazy. But anyways, so
Okay,
the next lyrics.
Yeah, so you talk a little more in the next kind of part about how obviously they won't help unless there's a profit in it for them, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's
no
like
water.
obviously like right, and like basically kind of like highlighting issues like the Flint, Michigan water crisis, and the fact that projects still exist in our country, and in one of the richest countries in the world, we haven't like put our resources to use in an effective way to take care of our people. I think is just shameful, especially because like we just have such an ability to take care of the people around us, and we just like so often just don't, you know.
It's I feel like it's almost that psychological concept of the bystander effect, where it's like,
you're waiting for
if I don't do it, someone else will. Yeah, you know. And
yeah,
it's unfortunate.
Well, I think it's that, and I think it's also, well, I think it's partly that, and I think it's also partly deprivation, like of like a starvation mindset of like resource, you know, like scavenging and hoarding, you know, like I think it all comes from ultimately it comes down to it all coming from very broken people being in charge of resource management, you know, like
yeah,
like the wrong people are in power kind of thing.
The water hoarding, the food and resource destruction too.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next couple of lines here, is there anything you really kind of want to go over in there? We've got the clean water we talked about, and the projects. This whole thing been placed on hospice. I want to talk about that.
Yeah. It's just kind of like a very dark and gloomy outlook on the idea of like trajectory of America, of how like we've tasted prosperity, but how like terribly we treat ourselves, and like it's almost like a cancer operating from within. And that was written at the same time that my grandma was placed on hospice, and so like just kind of like being in that environment where it's like it's not necessarily a death sentence, but it is not a good sign, you know.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and so like that was just kind of like my like this whole thing's been placed on hospice, built by slaves in blood and violence. Feel that shame, that weight, that silence. It's kind of like diagnosing this is the cancer we're not talking about, and like feel the shame of the weight of that silence.
And like silence equals white violence.
Yeah, just like the idea, like just I don't know. When you learn about other, like I was listening to one of those things from Trevor Noah where he's talking about the way that South Africa went about healing after apartheid, and how just like how awful and systemic they were with their legalized racism and like structured systems of oppression, and how they went about doing their reparation process. And like, you know, obviously that's not like perfect over there, but like kind of like the steps that were taken, and like looking at our own systems of government and looking at how much like public figures are so willing to not give a fuck, you know, and set that precedent for like just pouring salt into open wounds that have never been allowed to fully heal, you know.
And even with some of it feels subconscious with a lot of them, which is I think the part that scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. It's like this, like it's like a, yeah. I think I see a lot of that too, where there's like,
it's a normalized apathy.
It's not, yeah, because what I wanted to say is it's not like a thing that's centralized around like the level of intelligence of the person engaging in that action or behavior. Has like very little to do with that. In fact, actually, I read once that like intelligent people are significantly more likely to be sucked into cults and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't remember exactly why that is, but that was just an interesting thing that I had noted. But you know, like I think that a lot of it has to do with like community environment and like reinforced behaviors and, you know, like cultural influence, a lot of it, you know. And like I think a lot of it comes from a certain level of lack of exposure, you know, like lack of being introduced to certain aspects of culture and lack of being aware of like the condition of certain humans around you. And like I think that goes back to what you're talking about, it being subconscious. It's like it is just so fucking normal, you know, like it's just like you can't see it until you see it kind of thing almost.
Well, it's like I mean, as a young adult, having not worked with mental health participants or substance abuse patients yet. I had such a strange outlook on addiction, on self-preservation as a whole, that I spent a year working in a methadone maintenance facility. I met these people. I saw the depth of their lives, the value in their character, and the fact that they're just people like you and me. They're parents and brothers and sisters and artists and musicians, and it's such a weird inability to create that connection without that.
Yeah, you have to, like, there is like a need for the experience of it. And so like there's a part of me that wants to, like, that allows me to like have grace for continued conversations with people that like I feel like are just like well, specifically like when it gets hard for me, because it can be like so heavy to have some of those conversations with people where they're just saying things that you're just like, that are like hurting your soul. Yeah, that you're like, I can't believe you think these things. But like but at the same time, like still loving that person enough to keep having that conversation. I think one of the things that continues to bring me back to that is I used to be really fundamental Christian, and like two of my closest friends growing up came out as gay, and like there were parts of like my life where I was like trying to convince them to stay in the closet and stuff like that, because I just like I didn't know what I was doing.
You didn't have the perspective. You didn't have
the worldview that I lived in believed that what I was doing was the most loving thing. And that's another interesting thing that I've noticed in my dialogue with people that are on like opposite political spectrums from myself, is that like a perfect example is like the ideas of like pedophilia and that kind of stuff. Like across the board, everyone is definitely against that shit. And like, but when certain politicians are accused of it and other politicians aren't, like back and forth, like people on the left think that like Trump was involved in Epstein shit, and they kind of like pay less attention to Biden being fucking creepy, and vice versa, you know, like there's like when you're having that conversation with someone on the other side and they hear you say, I'm okay with voting for Biden, what they're hearing you're saying, and you're not meaning, but what they're hearing is, okay with this dude being fucking creepy with little girls. And that's like a social programming thing, you know, like that, like that ear that got into the brain of that person. Like they just like, our thought process has been so pivoted by social media to be so immediately combative that like we don't have time to like listen to the idea of what someone means by what they say. We just like jump on it and we're like, oh, you're a fucking this or that, you know, like we don't have like time to like listen to people and like hear each other out, because so often it really just comes down to perspective. So like what I was saying is like, clearly if someone on the right hears you say, I'm okay with being a pedophile, they're going to be, or like okay with like voting for a pedophile or something like that, like they're going to be like, well, I do not fuck with you at all then, you know, like there's a hard line in the sand for me. And it goes the other direction. Like when we hear from the opposite side, like, well, I'm okay with this, like we hear like something way more drastic than they mean, you know. And like until we can have like that, like, and I think that really what that comes down to is like the average American. Obviously you have like those extremist people who are like hopping on people's posts and dropping the N-word and like just like being assholes, and people who like really do want to hurt people of other races, you know, like definitely that exists. But I think that like for the average person that you end up debating with on Facebook, like I think most of them, we just live in opposite realities. And so we're not even having the same conversation when we're arguing with each other. Because like, you know, like none of us are out here advocating for the murder of anybody. And so like when you have like those conversations with people about like protesting or anti-protesting or whatever, like we're just having two separate conversations, you know?
Well, it's too, we had a similar conversation on the Secret Hideout show when you came on, where we talked about how rap in and of itself is Black music. It is, it is in its purest form a creation of the Black community, and to be involved in that community and be able to give the message from that community as yourself creates that perspective and that ability to see yourself in the person you're talking to. So that familiarity, familiarity. And I always thought that was such a what is the word I'm looking for here? Just a novel concept to me, because I like to listen to people, you know? So it's
dude, the humanization process is such a like a heavy component of that too. And actually that's an interesting thing you bring that up. I like when we were talking earlier about like not really recognizing your biases, like when I've spent time, I have like family members who have like special needs and that kind of thing, and spending time around people who, that's like, I think one of the more obvious ways that it happened for me. And like, I just noticed that when I started to really treat them like people and like treat them like how, like what, like they're capable human beings, you know, that was when I noticed how much I hadn't been before.
Right.
You know, like speaking to them like a person, and like not like slow talking to them or different things, or talking down, or like, or not giving them things to do, or, you know, like cutting them out from conversations. And I just didn't even notice I was doing that shit until I started stopping myself from doing that shit. Or it was like through the process of like different interventions through like situations or whatever, like slowly becoming aware of it. And it was through exposure, you know?
Yep. I could say that too.
Yeah. And honestly, it's not like, unfortunately, it's not a universal guarantee that if you have that exposure, you'll have that experience. But like, it does increase the likelihood, you know?
Well, especially if the more positive interactions you have with anybody, the less you'll have those mental restrictions towards whatever that person is that is causing that bias for you.
Yeah.
So,
you know, something interesting about that. I was listening to MP way home from work, and they were talking about, I don't know if this was specifically for Phoenix or not, but they were talking about doing city sponsored programs with the police where they'll do housing benefits for those police officers if they'll live in the communities that they're policing.
That's awesome.
I know, that's what I said too. I was like, that is like, I mean, that's going to be really hard to transition into that, but that definitely should have been one of the fucking things that, like, one of the first they did was like make them a part of the community. Like,
well, shoot, when you're hired, I'd be like, oh, okay, here's your address. Okay, you'll be working at this station that's that close to your house because that's your community.
Yeah. Like, or just like, I mean, obviously I don't know the logistics that go into that shit, but like, I just thought it was a really cool idea. And it goes back to your idea of like the exposure in the community and like knowing the people. Like, as obviously it's not like a guarantee, you know, but it definitely increases the likelihood, like a better world. Yeah.
So let's talk about this big ass chorus, because the first time I heard this chorus, like, I was like, what? Okay. But it's very, and excuse me if I'm insulting you with this interpretation, but it's very Robin Hood, and I love it.
Okay, right on.
It's like go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm not insulted by that at all. It's so like the concept about like, it's not really about monetary stuff, more about like the idea of like, I feel like there's certain things in my life that I was cut out of just because I didn't know about their existence. And so the secret bank accounts is like the idea of like secret knowledge, esoteric knowledge.
Okay.
Like the idea of like, so one thing that I learned recently, me and my friends were just talking about this the other night, was when you look through evolution, the brain actually developed after the body. And
I saw your post about that today.
Yeah. And so like, ultimately what that means is we, more than anything, we are our body, and then our brain is like another appendage. Like it's more like a hand or a foot or something like that, you know? And basically what's really interesting when you learn that is that so much of our identity as human beings, we derive from our brain and like who we think we are and how we feel and like all these different things. When in reality, this has very little to do with exactly who we are. Like it has so much to do with how we interact with our environment, but like spiritually speaking, when you're thinking of things like where does the inception of the thing start and where does it end? Like you are your body first and then you are your brain. And like when your brain dies, me and my friends were talking about this the other night. It's really interesting. So like the idea of like passing on ourselves, or like some kind of like eternal, like, you know how like energy can't be destroyed, it can only be transferred and that kind of stuff. We were talking about how like you can inherit like behaviors and mannerisms and that kind of thing from your family. And we were talking about how I wonder if that's like really a true form of immortality, because like all the ideas that we have of death and being afraid of death and all that stuff is motivated by our brain, like not so much by our body. Like our body has like certain physical reactions as well to it, the concepts of life and death, but like you know, like, I just think it's interesting that like, we don't pass on our brains, we actually pass on like our like physical, like there's
behaviors
like, things that
and mannerisms.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Exactly.
crazy
It's
too,
like,
because I see that in my brother and I, like with things
Yeah.
that we do that are like the way our dad does it, or
Yep.
you know, like just verbal patterns as well. But I'm wondering too, like, does that then become like down the line a bastardization of what it was originally, though?
or is it just something new entirely? Like,
Right?
I think that like it's
Getting
kind of like
telephone.
telephone. It just exactly, yeah.
Okay,
We're on the same wavelength, man.
we got it. We're
Yeah, but it's
acquainted.
just so. Yeah.
Cool.
So that was, what was that part about again?
The chorus they're talking about
Yeah.
secret bank accounts, clean them out.
Yes. Okay, and then the first part, if you've got sickness in your body, shake it out. I only show up to the places where I'm not allowed. That is actually like, that's kind of like several ideas. Like, it's kind of like going after the idea of like the sickness is like aggression and like negativity and like that like desire to like enforce change on your environment because you're sick of like the way that you're like the world around you is. Like, shake it out means like physically put your body into motion. Like, when you're like feeling really hyped, like if you just move your body, you feel that energy releasing, and like it brings clarity to your direction.
I get it. I'm like,
exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so shake it out. I only show up to the places where I'm not allowed, is the idea of like rebellion, revolution, and inciting change.
okay, see,
I
had a reference to protest in my head.
Yeah, it was, the idea is that like that kind of like thing can't be made known unless it's resisted against, and the only thing that like so thereby like it can only be in an arena of conflict, you know. It's just kind of like an observation on that, but also like I was thinking like the reason I called the song Spirit of God is because I really do see God as like a representative of the oppressed, and like the love that I got to know in my time in Christianity about God centered heavily on the ideas of caring for people that no one else would, and like seeking out that person specifically in the crowd, and like and so when I see the things that are happening in our world around us, that's where I would see God at. You know, like I would see God at a protest. I would see God at like in the midst of that rebellion of that, like, you aren't going to treat me this way anymore kind of stuff.
Homeless shelter, it places where good is
where there's
love and
yeah, where there's conflict, you know, like there's hard shit happening, you know.
Okay, cool. So I mean, on that note, then, is this this lyric about it all being maybe just a mean joke? Is it only at the end we're equal? Obviously, that being a reference to death, right?
Yes.
You know, we're equal in death. And meanwhile, selling off souls by the kilo, or no, looking at hope through the keyhole first.
Yes. So looking at hope through the keyhole. Meanwhile, if you go back another line, it's clearing out a bando for the C note.
Yeah.
So that is it's both. So bando is slang for abandoned house, where there's usually like either homeless people squatting there, drug deals going down, whatever, you know, like that kind of stuff. So it can be typically a point for raids for like police activity and that kind of thing. Okay. So the idea of clearing out a bando for the C note is both the idea of the police unloading in Lear, but also the idea of doing it essentially for money, because like you're not helping the community by doing that, you know, like you're not like, I mean, you might be introducing like a temporary reprieve from maybe if they're being violent to their neighbors or something like that, but like ultimately the community still has that problem, you know, like you shut down that one, cool, there's another one around the corner, you know, like like it's not dealing with the root of the issue, which is like why these places are there in the first place, like, and why like these people are like stuck in these cycles of like self-abuse, you know. And so like clearing out a bando for the C note is just like it's like looking at hope to the keyhole, selling off souls by the kilo is kind of like the inverse of that side of it, looking at like the drug dealer and that kind of thing, who's a person who's like recognizes the damage they're doing to the community, but also like feels like they have no other option and that kind of thing. Looking at like hope through a keyhole. This is both the idea of like a kilo of cocaine, but also like a keyhole in like a jail cell where it's like you're running a lot of risk for both your life and like you're like, you could either end up in jail for the rest of your life or you could end up dead, you know, like, just like the, like, kind of like the hopeless, or like from what my outside perspective, just like how hard and heavy that must be on an individual soul, you know, like to be from such a young age forced into a reality where like that's the options you're presented with, you know.
Yeah, and
that's hard shit to grow up in.
I feel like that's something that not a lot of people understand. I see a lot of people talk about how much opportunity there is in this country, about how you just got to get out there and do it. But there are literal parts of our country where there isn't even food. There's no walkable grocery. There's nowhere for those people to get the things that they need to live every day, let alone function. So I mean, you can tote possibility all you want, but if that person can't afford to live, eat, and reap the benefits of those possibilities, then they're not going to be happy, and it's going to beget violence and crime anyway.
Exactly. Like, yeah, it's like you're feeding the fire by doing all
so
that
then
shit.
Why does it feel like we beg to do evil? Why does it feel like we're evil? Okay.
It feels like it's just kind of like there are times where I'm looking at these solutions to these types of problems, and some of them seem so just like no brainer, and we're just not doing shit about it. And the only reason I can find in so is like like so much of it centers around like the financial aspect of it. Like, honestly, like when you're on your deathbed, who gives a fuck about $10? You know what I mean? Like, or $1 million. Like, and we're talking about like the welfare and just like the prosperity of individuals, but also like as a community, when we raise the standard of living for the people around us, we raise the standard of living for ourselves as well. You know, like I know I'm like definitely an idealist, but I want to live in a world where like I feel safe everywhere. My friends feel safe everywhere. Like I feel like that's not a lot to ask, you know? And like, and also like, we feel like we have the life we want to lead, or at the very least, we're not just like fucking miserable all the time. Like there's like this huge spikes in depression and anxiety, and so much of it is centered on like on things that we can address, you know, like it's just crazy.
Well, it's like the journalist out of I believe he's from Sweden. His name's Johan Hari, and he wrote a book called Chasing the Scream about heroin and about kind of the start of the drug war and everything else. He also wrote another one called Missed Connections, and it's about depression and how, you know, 83% of the American workforce hates their job. You know, or it's like it's not maybe not that amount, but it's like 60 to 70% hate their job, like 20% are like and then like 10% of people like their job. And so you're meant to go to a job every day and kill yourself. And I see, is that a reference earlier in this here verse when you talk about can't handle the stress, got me bugging, trust me, see the veins in my neck, but bet I'll be here week after next. That's that continual grind to get a paycheck, right?
Yeah, but it is both that, but also the stress that it causes me to be in conflict and have these conversations with people. And like, because I don't like being in conflict, but like there are things in my environment that just like, I'm hardcore. Like if I can avoid it, I'm definitely a fight versus flight kind of person, or like flight versus fight. Yeah,
I'm definitely like a very aggressive too. So it's
you got that 8-wing, huh?
Yeah.
Or that 8 influence. Yeah. So like, it's just kind of like one of those things where, but I'll be here till week after next, till I breathe every breath. Like,
so my chest is full of dust and I've done breathed every breath. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Like, it's just like, one of my favorite verses that kind of like really helped me out a lot in certain times when I was really struggling with like my faith was Jesus asked his disciples after he made his speech about his flesh and drinking his blood, and everyone was like, okay, this guy's psycho. He turned to his disciples and asked them if they were going to leave him too, and they said, where else would we go? And I've always kind of like held on to that particular like phrase in the idea like there are certain things in my life that I come up against and I don't know what to do with them. And I don't really have the opportunity to run because where else would I be other than where I is kind of like what I've pulled from that as like a life lesson, you know, like running from this is not an option, you know, like stalling is definitely something I do a lot, you know, but just kind of like pulling from that idea, like you have to face the things that you're doing. The way out is through, you know?
Yeah, I like that. And as long as you're growing, you're glowing.
Yeah, exactly. And like that, and that's like a big thing that I've learned a lot in that process too, is like incremental growth is still awesome.
Awesome. Okay. So the next portion of that, we talk about, you know, for you, this is a means to an end. Is that still talking about the job, or is that talking more about the conflict?
That's actually, the job is definitely a bit, but that's actually a reference to music in general. Music is, I see it more as the medium for things like this. I want to have conversations with people. I want to put like powerful ideas into the can bring about a reality that I want to live in, one that like has people that love themselves and love the people around them and have like a respect for themselves and for their environment, and like just like a self-love and self-efficacy. And if I can like help that through conversation, like that's what I want to do, you know?
Yes.
So it's like, so it's like, music is like a means to an end for me. And I think that like, it's something that I have a lot of love for and something I'll probably do for my whole life, but it's not like when I'm writing music, it's not really what I'm 100% focused on, you know, like
it's not the goal.
Yeah. Like for me, the goal is how can I convey my idea and these emotions or this thing that I ultimately want to talk about most effectively.
But I wonder, is that not like and maybe is this next couple of lines here in reference to that? Obviously, no need to pretend. Real ones know a thief when it blends.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like basically the idea is like I'm not gonna lie to anyone about what I do. Like if I want to take like a different approach to doing certain things, then like I want to be like upfront about that. But also like if I have like, I really love the idea of being just radically honest with the people around you. Like if there's like a point of contention, like having at this stage in my life, like the friendships that I'm finding, like the really close ones are the ones that from the jump I can like have conversations where I'm like, hey, like what are you struggling with? Or like, hey, like this is a really hard thing for me to talk about, but like I need to have this conversation with you. Like people I can like feel comfortable doing that with. If they respond well to that, then I know we can have like real like connection and community, you know? Awesome. But if they don't respond well to that, like then obviously we don't have that kind of connection and you're just not going to be close to me. Like it's just
you can lead a horse to water, or you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then it goes back into the chorus. Is there any other kind of any lines or anything else you'd like to highlight about the song?
I don't think so. No, I think we hit like all the
pretty in depth
shit. Yeah.
What about the sound clips in the beginning?
The sound clip all from right-wing creators, and they're all. But the concept and the idea of what is happening in the intro is basically like every time I have a conversation with someone on politics, there's literally a script to that shit. Like you can predict how people are going to respond based on what you say. And so it's just kind of like highlighting these are the scripts. Like there's like every time I specifically
propaganda.
was looking for, like I was looking specifically for news clips that had lines that were like, this is what I think about America. And like, here's what you should think about America. Kind of like vibes, you know, like basically like, exactly, opinion-based news. And like just that like shit that's really just been like really just
the crux of journalism.
Yeah, dude, it's just been so awful. Like so it's that, and then there's a clip of me spitting, and it's just kind of like the idea of me like,
I wondered if that was
fucking hate that
you
shit.
Or just yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, that was me.
So do you want to talk about Dobe's feature, or do you want to bring him on for another episode, or?
We definitely I'm sure he'd be down to like do some chatting about that for sure. Like
I can his work.
Yeah, he's man, that dude is such I have so much respect for his lyrics. He's so like incredible with the way that like just twists in metaphors and stuff like that. I'm sure just like go over so many.
He's got a lot of just energy.
G.
Machi?
Yeah. Dude, yeah, it's on repeat. But yeah, no, I love Dobby's part. Like, I knew that, like, when I guess we can talk about, like, how, like, I came about to, like, getting him involved in it and stuff, and what that process looked like and stuff. But he, I knew from the second, like, I finished that like central verse, I was like, yeah, I definitely want to incorporate Dobby Dope on this. And I shot him a message, and that was actually, I think that was the thing we collabed on, and I'd been a fan of him a while before that. And I shot him a message, and I was like, hey, like, I know this is, like, super random, but, like, I'm a big fan. Like, I'd love if you would do a feature for me. But, like, just a heads up, like, it's very political, like, in the content, like, so if you're not comfortable with that, like, I totally understand. And he was like, all right, well, like, not sure what that means, but, like, send it to me, and, like, oh, you know, whether or not I'm comfortable. And then he was, like, super down, you know, like, he was definitely, like, on board. He tracked, I think he did, like, all his tracking and, like, setting up the takes and everything like that all on his own, and then he sent it over to Trey, who just, like, mixed it into the rest of the song. But, like, so we didn't get a chance to, like, work in the same room or anything like that, which would have been really, really cool. But, like, yeah, he just, like, it took, like, maybe, like, a week for the turnaround, but there was, like, no doubt in my mind that it was going to be incredible.
Good verse, dude.
He sent me he sent me half of that, so, like, it's like a 16, and he sent me an 8, and he sent me half of that, and he was like, let me know if this is enough. Like, I got more, like, if you want it. And, like, the only critique I had for that first one is, like, please keep rapping. I want to hear so much more. Like, yeah, like,
and you can, I think you can kind of feel that connect where he started writing the second, or put the second half in, because is it that part where he's, like, talking about even up the dinner plates?
Yeah, I think it's, like, the sick of this bullshit, gotta just figure this subject. Yeah, like, I think that's, like, where he, like,
they're giving you rules and reasons why they above it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think it was, like, that, like, around there where that switch happened. But, like, it was just so funny. Yeah, but it came out incredible. Like, he's such a good artist. Like, I had no doubts. And we have him on another track that hasn't come out yet for Sorrow Circle. And again, like, one of my all-time favorite things. Like, he's just, like, I'm like so honored to be working with like that. It's really cool.
I'm excited for that. That's awesome. Sorrow Circle is amazing. I can't wait to get each of them on this. Like,
yes, we're definitely gonna have to do that. We'll take full advantage of that. I floated the idea to a few of them, and they were, yes, please.
Cool.
Definitely.
Let's see here. Oh, and it was so cool to see him perform it live with you too, even if, like, he was so hyped that he forgot to do it during the song.
Dude, no, there was an audio malfunction.
Was it?
We weren't so okay. I don't know if we talked about it, but he literally had surgery that day. And so we weren't sure if he was going to be there. Yeah.
He just showed up.
I think he had his appendix taken out, if I remember.
I think I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, and he showed up. Dude, for real. We weren't sure. And he, like, told me, he was like, hey, I'm going to try, but this is what's happening today. Like, and I was like, dude, do what you got to do. Like, it's surgery. It's important. Like, if you can make it, awesome. If you can't, like, we'll run. Like, Trey made, like, an extra track that had, like, the hook repeat at the end so that we could just run that, and then, like, it just wouldn't, like, Dobby's part wouldn't play, and it would, like, be fine, you know.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, and so we sent both of those to the church so that we'd have all the audio files ready, and one of them was labeled with Dobby and one was labeled without Dobby. And they just mixed it up, like, when we start, and there's no way for us to know until it gets to that part when we're on stage. Like, we had no idea, and, like, everyone else who's, like, involved in, like, the production and, like, knows the music is, like, near the stage or on the stage with me. Yeah, and, like, and so it played through, and I was looking at Dobby, and I was like, dude, I remember
watching you guys change eyes, like, at the end when the last couple of chorus parts hit. And I mean, he pulled it out.
Yeah, no, he fucking killed it. Like, he was, like,
beatless at the end, dude.
About it. Yeah, and like I was so impressed. Like, man, yeah,
that's so cool. Awesome. Well,
but yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Hopefully we'll get this long. If you made it this long through it. We want to hear more from you. We want to hear what questions you guys have. We want to get you guys involved. If you are an artist and want to be on the show and you've got a song that you want to send us, go ahead and do that. We're going to get all our social medias and stuff set up, and we'll put it in the end. We'll in post somewhere.
Yeah, some tags or whatever.
Yeah. Is there anything you would like to
Whatever
tell,
that YouTube is.
tell the crowd, Eric?
I love you guys. My EP is re-releasing on the 18th. There's going to be a new merch line with it as well. And I've got like a few extra. Are we going to be able to post this before the 18th? You think? If we can't, that's
Friday,
okay.
Maybe we'll see.
If we can't, it's totally cool. But if we do, there's going to be merch giveaways with people who do the pre-save link. So if you pre-save it and you let me know, I'll drop your name into a contest and we'll give away some free shirts and that kind of
stuff. Oh, sweet! I'm putting my name in.
Yeah.
My UTC shirt's my favorite, the Astral Science one with the space.
Yeah. I got a few of those left over, so we're gonna give out what the rest of those ones. So
Sweet.
Make room for the new merch. Yeah.
Awesome.